black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.
Thank you guys for your time. I really, really enjoyed the series. I watched the whole thing in one setting. I couldn't look away. Beginning with you, Lily, as I've learned, I remember this happening the first time around, but seeing it in this light, it made me wonder if Pamela was a more complicated person than we thought, or maybe a more simple woman than we thought. What do you think? More complicated than she was painted, or more of a simple woman than the way she was portrayed in the media?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to speak to that exactly, but I definitely think there was so much more to the story of what happened to them than anyone was aware of, perhaps. And definitely it was sort of largely misled by the headlines. And so, one of the purposes of doing this really was to go deeper into the story and look at what happened to them and look at the bigger picture of how we tend to treat, these sorts of exploitations or violations of your privacy, the consequences of them. And looking at that from now through this time and perspective, and looking at our own culpability within it, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. This was really groundbreaking. It was the first time this occurred. Sebastian, for you, I was also intrigued by your portrayal of Tommy. You did a wonderful job, and he was had a level of sweetness that one doesn't kind of attribute to a rock star. Was there things that you learned about him during your research that surprised you, that didn't surprise you? What was intriguing about this character for you?
Well, listen, I mean, we sort of touch a little bit about it in the series, but not entirely. But he has a very interesting childhood. He was actually born in Greece, and then he came here. And the weird part, the thing about it that stuck out to me was his mother didn't speak English for the first few years of his life, and I think that's interesting. And I again, like, how do you grow up like that, and how does that affect you? And his parents communicated through pictures. They literally would draw pictures to each other. If she, for example, I mean, he talks about this in the interviews. It's on YouTube, so you can look it up. But if she wanted to tell her husband to go and get eggs, she'd draw a chicken, and like that's how they would communicate. So you have to sort of, and I think to some extent, learning about him, discovering the drums, is interesting, knowing that context and sort of how he grew up, right? But you're always, I mean, he's written a book, and I think he's pretty forward about a lot of things in that book, and that was helpful as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Back to you, Lily. Pamela has always been just so iconic and just pop culture, TV culture in general. When you look at her, what are you most impressed with what you know about her now?
Well, I really admire her for many reasons. I mean, I was really blown away learning more about her by her organization and the work she does for her foundation, and for charity, and how that's always been a big focus for her. I mean, she's worked with Peter forever, and I know that she writes about, using the attention she gets and deflecting it for more worthy purposes. And I think that's really admirable. And I think, from my point of view, throughout her career, there's an authenticity about her and her work and as a person that I think is really rare. But I loved watching all her stuff, Baywatch after Baywatch, Bob White. I mean, I went through all her movies, read her books and her poetry, and it was really amazing getting to learn more and more about her.
It was. Thank you for your performances and time. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for chatting with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Hi, it's nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. And I really, really enjoyed you because I felt like Erica spoke for us, in a sense, us, the viewer, who are watching this from the outside. When you think of Erica and the part that she plays within the story, how would you describe her? Is she a truth sayer? Is she a voice of reason? How would you assess who she is and what she means to this story?
I think that she's someone who has her own internal moral compass, or moral sounds sort of like judgmental, but she's someone who understands what she values and she's able to express it. And I think that a lot of people we see in the show, the dynamics that happen are like very much swayed by external factors and money, power, fame, the things that we collectively lose ourselves into. But for whatever reason, Erica is, through all of it, she holds on to her own center. So, yeah.
I remember some of our audience might not be old enough, but I remember when this happened, and I just couldn't grasp it because I was just too young and it wasn't the internet age. Do you remember when this happened, and what was your own understanding of what was happening with them and this intimate tape of theirs that was placed out? Did you have any real understanding of what this meant to society in general? Because I mean, we were all kind of young.
Yeah, we were all kind of young. I don't remember it when it happened at all. It was before my time, sort of as being conscious of those kinds of things. I do know now that people that are a little bit older than me, sort of in my peer group, it was a seminal event in their lives because it was like, it was the impetus to go get on the internet and figure out how to watch this thing. But I had no understanding of the cultural implications, and what's sad to me, and also continually motivating to question one's knowledge about everything, is that I sort of associated the tape with Pam. I was like vaguely under the impression that it was like a choice that she'd made, and to understand that she was the victim of a very serious crime, and never received compensation, never received anything from the collective other than further exploitation, and was made fun of and held, move forward with a lot of grace and dignity in the face of a lot of misogyny. I mean, it's heroic that she was able to move forward with her life after being violated in that capacity. I had no idea, I guess, is my answer. I had no idea.
What I appreciate, Erica sort of gave me a sort of relief, because watching this and learning it was really making me angry of how she was treated. And I that's why I say I feel like Erica spoke for us. Yeah, when she was able to articulate some of the things that I was feeling. What are you most proud of with her?
Oh, I love her. I was so excited to play this part. I felt like, it's like, she's small but mighty. She's like a very important ingredient in this whole soup that, she's the example. She's embodying a woman who's made the choice to enter sex work willingly and in an empowered way. She enjoys what she's doing. As a historical figure, this woman also went on to direct porn, and then she decided to leave and have another career and became a mother. She was really in charge of her choices. And it's a very important counterpoint to Pam, who was not in charge of her choices, who was utterly exploited, who had not consented to sex work. And I think that, we need to see someone who's made the choice to understand, in contrast, how violated Pam Anderson was. And so I thought, I really liked that about the character.
I loved it. I thought you were wonderful. And this series was really, really good. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you. Take care.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerds. Better shake your booties for black girl nerds.